Hello and welcome to Introduction to Ethics. I'm your instructor, Professor Reeves. I'm looking forward to working with you this semester, and I hope you're looking forward to the course. Um, I wanted to give just a brief introduction to kind of what you can expect um, as we move forward in the course. And I want you to understand it. One thing that you can expect is that this may not be easy, but it will be possible for you to do. The reason I say that is that a lot of us have come up in a culture that has assumed certain things about ethics, and one of the things we have assumed is um, an approach in which ethics is about personal values. In fact, one ethicist talks about how in the modern world we live in what he calls an emotivist structure, um, meaning that ethical language doesn't really mean anything. Like, you shouldn't do that really only means I don't like that. I don't want you to like it either. But most of us don't actually live that way in regard to how others treat us. When we say you shouldn't do that, we usually somehow mean that really you should not. It should not be done. It's just a fact of life that that's not a proper way to act towards me. So we talk about ethics and morals as if they're kind of this subjective sort of thing that anything goes for whatever somebody wants, what they personally value, except for when it applies to how other people treat us. When we start talking about our rights or what you should do for me, we tend to live in this sort of wishy-washy place of where we don't really explain and we don't expect explanation for morals. Um, we tend to not have clear language about them. Um, we tend to not be consistent when talking about them. How we act towards our friends as opposed to how we act towards our enemies is often very inconsistent. Um, so this can be challenging. When I say it's not going to be easy is because I'm going to be challenging that tendency to not be very exacting and to not be clear in our moral language. So to some degree, you're studying a language. What do I mean by that? Anytime you start studying something new to you, you actually have to learn new terms, new ways to express ideas. Just as a for instance, and this has nothing to do with how smart or unintelligent you personally are. It has nothing to do with that. Okay, I have um, the equivalent at this point of about 2 master's degrees, and I can carry on conversations in fields of religious studies and philosophy with people with PhDs, probably to some degree because of my undergrad work, pretty intelligent conversations about literature and history. But I recently read an article where an economist was criticizing philosophers over their um, bad reasoning about economics, their bad moral reasoning about economics and economic systems, claiming that these very intelligent philosophers end up making dumb arguments because they know nothing about economics. And that kind of challenged me. So I've been studying more of economics and the stock market and how that works. It's been a challenge for me. I've never studied that. So I'm having to learn a new language in a sense. I'm having to learn terminologies about, short and long sales, options, the Greeks, um, all these things that might mean one thing in another setting in the realm of stock market and economics discussion. They have their own meanings, and I'm having to learn those, and it's a challenge for me. It's new. Um, and there again, if I read it for a little while and then stop and don't come back to it for a long time, it'll be a challenge again. Um, so it's going to be with this class. Most of you haven't read in ethics. Most of you haven't read much in philosophy. Um, there are going to be terms and ideas that are going to be new to you. So it's going to take a little bit of work. However, it is possible for you to do this. I'm very confident. I'm not heavy-handed with grading. I'm not out to fail you. I know most of you, this isn't your field. Many of you are going into, law enforcement or nursing or public health or something like that. So you may not have the philosophical language, but the ideas that we're going to be discussing are very important for how you behave towards others and how you understand right and wrong and proper actions in certain contexts, right? And it's very worthwhile. That being the case, it can also be very interesting if you just put the time in, if you try, even if it's hard for you. Try your best. Attempt the readings. Ask me questions when you don't understand. You can email me. You can ask in the discussion boards, which are going to be very important. But take the time to read, to watch, to answer questions. With all the readings and with some of the videos, I give you questions to answer as you read. Answer those questions, and if you're not sure, feel free to email me and say, I think this is the answer to that question. Am I right? Now, if you just say, what's the answer to number 4 on the questions about Ruth Benedict reading in the textbook? No, I'm not going to give you the answer. But if you say, I saw this question, I think this is the answer, is that right? If you send me that kind of email, then I'll say yes, or, well, partially. Try looking at such and such a place in the article, this page number, right? I'm not out to make this hard for you or to destroy your grades. I'm here to help you learn. I think this is incredibly important and can be incredibly interesting, but it's not interesting if you don't do the work. This isn't just about giving a bunch of opinions. It's about actually reading and thinking through how we make moral decisions. It's about learning and listening, learning new language, and learning new ways to express moral and ethical ideas, and to understand where we get our moral and ethical ideas. So, there again, expect it, number 1, to be challenging, but possible. Number 2, to be interesting if you try. Number 3, expect that I'll be fair and consistent, and your assignments will be consistent. Just about every week you're going to have a reading, some things to watch. You'll usually have some accompanying questions. And here's the thing, you'll have a quiz or quizzes each week. Those are always based on the reading questions. If you read and you answer those questions, you read this, there were 5 questions, you answered them. You can take your paper with your 5 questions on it, click on that quiz, and the questions in that quiz are going to come directly out of those questions you answered or should have answered while you were reading. And you can look right at your answers. It's a timed quiz, so you're not going to have time to go look up the answers as you take the quiz. I think a lot of people try to do that and they end up failing. But if you'll read and answer questions as you read, and then come take the quiz with your answers right there, you should be able to do fine on all the quizzes, which is very important. I would say it's fair and consistent. The quizzes add up to 45% of your final grade. So if you just do the reading and answer the questions, you've got almost half of your semester grade right there. The other nearly half, another 45%, is discussions. We'll have discussions pretty much on a weekly basis. Sometimes they may stretch a little longer, but I'm including, you'll see under this video, instructions, general instructions for discussion board. Please read those and ask me any questions you have about that, because the discussion board exercises are also 45% of your grade, and that will be most weeks that you have that. Sometimes it'll be an extension from the previous week, and you'll get kind of 2 grades for continuing your work in that one discussion board. But it will be fair, it will be consistent. If you try, if you do the work, you should be able to pass this course without much trouble. If you really put the effort in, even if you're struggling, you should be able to get an A. The final exam, when we get to it, is 10% of your final grade, and it's pretty well structured. I would give a very detailed rubric on how to write that. So there again, it's open book, open notes. I mean, it's writing a 5-paragraph essay. It's really not that hard. So um, I'm confident you can do it if you just read over the instructions and pay attention there on that again. So no, not simple, challenging, but possible, interesting, if you'll put the effort in. And I will be consistent and fair every week. We'll have a pretty basic structure. Things to watch. You'll have at the beginning of the module, kind of a list of what you need to do, things that you need to watch, things that you need to read, questions you need to answer, and usually a discussion board exercise that you need to engage in. Following those, look over the general discussion board information. It's down below a little bit. But I'll talk about that more in a future video. So, welcome to the course. Glad to have you in it. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I'll talk to you again soon.